Hey guys, it's Amanda with WonderwallCreations.net, coming to you today to talk a little bit about how I go through my process of laying out a project. So what I'm going to be creating today is a mock-up. A mock-up is one of the things that I like to do when I'm preparing to do a project. It's something that I do on a piece of paper before I put my pen or paper, marker, everything all together in one place. So what I have today, this is just a piece of sulfite watercolor. This is watercolor paper. I just bought it, Walmart, I think. Just, a simple heavier weight paper. It's like a 90-pound paper, and it's the drawing kind. It's just a little bit better for what I'm trying to do. You want to do something a little bit nicer because you don't want it to bleed through onto your table or anything like that. As you can see, I don't really care. I've got paint all over my table, but some people do care about that. So you want to make sure that you're doing something pretty sensible. So I have a quote that I have today. It's a pretty simple quote because I don't want to do anything really complicated. Because I don't want you guys to have to spend time with me while I do the whole thing. But basically, I have a quote that I want to do on this paper that I'm going to mock up for a final project. I very often will create what's called a reference paper, so I don't screw anything up. Let's just be honest. It's really easy to get really focused on the project, and then I have misspelled a word or left a letter out, and things like that. So I will very often have like a little post-it or a little piece of paper here that's got my quote on it, so that way I know exactly what I want that quote to be, how it's spelled, everything. Even if it's not hard, because I'm really slowing down, it's really easy for me to flub that up. So what I am mocking this up for is probably about an 8x10 canvas. Just a small 8x10, so this is an 8.5 by 11, I'm assuming. It's actually 9x12. So we do have a little bit of an inch leeway on either side that we wouldn't have on our final product, but this kind of gives us a good idea of the spacing that we're going to need for our final project. The quote that we're going to do today is called "Do What You Love." I love that quote. I think it has a pretty good, powerful message. So I'm going to be mocking that up. So for me, one of the things that I like to do whenever I'm preparing these things is I'm really deciding, I choose what letters are going to be biggest based upon what I think is the most important words. So we have the word love, which I think is one of the most important things that you have in here. And so that's going to be my letter, that's going to be my focus of my project. And then the "do what you" is kind of, I get to decide what I want to do with that. I like to do the word love, and this is just my personal preference, in like a scripty, really nice, big scripty font to make it really special, because love is special. And then I like mixing that up and pairing that with like a typeset font. So I probably am going to do that. So I would want love to be big, and then I want typeset font for sure. And then do I want to do typeset font for "do what you," or do I want to add some more in there? For the purposes of this project today, I'm going to actually do the scripty font for 2 words. So I'm going to do a scripty font for "what" and "love," and just kind of do every other. So we're going to have typeset for "do," we're going to have scripty for "what," typeset for "you," and then another scripty for "love." Now, how I very often do these projects is that I will do the word that I want to highlight the most. That is the word that I will do first, because I want it to be the biggest word. I want it to be the most noticeable, that kind of thing. So I have a paint marker here. This is just a Molotow One for All acrylic premium paint marker. This is the, let's see what color this one is. This is the burgundy marker. It's a nice burgundy color. I think it goes on pretty nicely. It's the color, it's kind of a cranberry almost, really, more than a burgundy. Of course, they all are kind of the same word for, so, whatever. So I was just making sure I don't need to prime it. If I need to prime it, I'm going to just pounce that on my paper. That's one of the reasons why I like having the scratch paper over here too. Alright, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go down here at the bottom. Believe it or not, we're going to start at the bottom. And so everything that you learned about handwriting in the 1st grade, you throw it out the window whenever you're doing hand lettering projects, because it's really a little bit more about what it's going to look like in the end, not necessarily what you want it to look like right now. I'm going to kind of keep in mind, one of the things that you might do is that if you're wanting to be really correct about this, you would maybe mark off the inch that you're going to have missing on the top or the bottom. I'm just going to kind of keep in mind that it's there, so my project will kind of look a little offset. So I just want you to know, I'm just going to kind of eyeball that and keep that in mind of what I'm going to have done. But if you really, really want something that's true to size of what you're going to have to do, then you may want to cut that off or mark that off with a pencil. So anyway, going to go over here for love. We're doing a scripty font. And really, my scripty font is kind of my zhuzhed up cursive handwriting. But I am putting a little bit of brush lettering style in on this today. And so what I will basically do is I've got my basic outline. I like to go back in afterwards and add in some extras. So I like to make it heavier strokes in different places. Go back in, layer in a little bit more. Basically, I get my first initial letter in, and then I get my first parts of that word in, and then I go back through and make it exactly what I want it to look like. Then I also may come back the next day and add in a little bit more. Like I say in the blog, you know, I go back in and I look at it again with a fresh set of eyes and say, ooh, I think I might want to make that a little bit heavier on some of those lines, so I'll go back in and do that. Okay, so if you do not have a fast drying paint marker, this could make a problem for people. So my paint markers dry really quickly, so I get spoiled by that. So I can go and do what I want up here. I can go ahead and do my do. So we've got a pretty decent sized love, probably about 2.5 inches or so. And then we know that we've got to put do what you in here. So you can continue working from the bottom up. I do that sometimes, or you can work from the top down now, but you know that this is what size you want your love to be, and this is your highlighted word that you really, really want. So I'm going to come up here, and I kind of use this as my guide, so I'll go like this, and then I'm like, okay, do I want this? So if I have this for do, what, and then, okay, so they all can't be the same size. So I'm going to have to come down here and I'm going to have to size down. A lot of this is doing this by eyeball, but if you are one of those people who really, really are precise and really like a lot of numbers and knowing that you're doing everything even, you might want to be the person who gets out the measuring stick, the ruler, the whatever, and measure this off to know that you're doing like the same size. I don't do that. I'm a little bit more free-flowing in that. I've been doing this a lot longer. My husband would be the person who would definitely have the ruler out and would be measuring every letter to make sure that every letter was the same size. It's just about whatever method you want to do. So, I'm going to go up here to the top, and I'm going to do just a typeset do. As you can see, my marker's starting to die out a little bit, so I'm just going to come over here to the side. I pounced that a little bit. So I'm coming back in with my marker. And as you can see, I had a little bit, it got a little too thick here and it's not the same. So I'm just coming back through and I'm making those fixes and smoothing those letters out. See, I even have to do that myself. I like to come in and fatten up the sides of an O. That gives it more of a look of what it would kind of look like if you had it on a typewriter. So we have do and we have love, so we need to put what and you. So I wanted to do what in a typeset, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to give my, remember I just come back through and I just do it all in one shot, and then I come back through and I edit. And because I've got the camera in the way, I will say that this might be a little off. They may not be completely straight. Know that I do struggle with that if I'm not looking at something straight on. So know that I have myself had to have a lot of practice, and I have to think really hard about keeping everything even. Very often I will finish a project and then my husband will look at it and kind of turn his head in one way, and he'll be like, well, this one side goes uphill a little bit. And I'll be like, gosh darn it, I did it again. I have a problem with that. So you have to know what your weaknesses are, and you've got to work on those. That's one of the reasons why I do a lot of mock-ups, is because I have a little bit of a hard time with things going like that. So we have do and what, and then we have love. We're just going to come in here and put a U. And when I look at this, I'm going to be looking at what I want to make edits on. So I'm looking at this and I see that my do and my what and my U, they're not quite. One of the things that I might do is I might have a midline that's drawn lightly on my project, like on my final thing, so I know where the midline of everything needs to be, so that I know the in between the O, D and the O, and the in between here, and the middle of this, and the middle of this would be where the midline would come through. And obviously my midline is off, so I would probably want to do another mock-up of this where I would come through, and then I don't necessarily like this D, so I might look at what I can do differently. Because this is just my paper and this is my mock-up, what I might do over here is I might draw an alternative right here beside it. I might decide that I would rather do maybe a lowercase do and kind of look at that. Do I want to change something up? One of the things that I like to do with the word love, if it ends a sentence, is maybe make a heart period at the end of my sentence. So maybe that's something that I want to add in there. I also am looking at my kerning got a little off between my A and my H. If you're not sure what kerning is, it's the space between the letters. I'm not trying to be perfect, because, you know, Wonderwall Creations is all about the perfectly imperfect design. But these are the things that I'm going to want to do in order to make it better for next time. I likely would do another version of this. Maybe I would just flip this over and do it again. You know, try it out before I put it on the paper, before I put it on my canvas. So, but like I said, some other options that you could do is you could go ahead and mark out this right here. You can draw your midline down through here so that you know that you're doing that. You can switch it up like I've done. I'm going to mark out this. That's what I do on my mock-ups. And so I might even hang this mock-up on the wall so that I have be able to look at that, so that I know that I'm doing my edits a little bit differently than what I did this. So just some thoughts for you about when you're mocking up your project. Just a little bit of my process and what I do in the process of getting ready for the big game of putting everything on there. This is my practice. So if you have questions, guys, always let me know. If you have some techniques or some different options for laying things out there that you might want to share with me, please do. As always, check out our Etsy shop at wonderwallcreations.net/shop, or check back here to learn more about the hand lettering process. You guys take care. Bye-bye.